Here we are looking at the KelTec RDB on the tabletop in the Nut and Fancy project. Perhaps you're wondering at this point, officially year 10 of TMP, how do I feel about bullpups overall? Do I hate them? Do I like them? Do I love them? I have had some guys ask me that I've met in person. Here's the honest answer. You ready? I like them. Yeah, I don't love them, but I like them. That represents progress, by the way, for me personally, because I used to hate bullpups. Yeah, they're scrunched up. They're still hard to run. Ergonomically, they're not my favorite. There you go. There's the truth. But after testing several of them, putting thousands of rounds through several of them, I like them. We still have several. I'm going to show a competitive option here in a second. Yeah, I like them. I wouldn't say, though, I dream about them. Go, oh my gosh, bullpups are the coolest. I just love them. Me, I'll reach for an AK or an AR-15 before I'll reach for a bullpup. Says me. Says me. I'll tell you what, though, there's a lot of guys that do love bullpups, and this is manifested quite readily at just looking at what the manufacturers are doing. They're introducing more bullpups. Why? Because they're selling. People love bullpups. Is it the video games that are turning guys onto it? I don't know. You know, I've done some very positive reviews like the Devore on bullpups. Highly recommended. Very enthusiastic about that bullpup. You know, maybe that fueled the fires. But I think you're lucky to ever go into a gun store and see some KelTec RDBs on the shelf. They're probably sold. They don't stay very long. Guys, eat them up. It's relatively affordable for what it is. Other bullpups are a lot more expensive. It's cool. But there's my answer to intro this GRV on the RDB. Now, check this out. At the top is my KelTec RDB survival model review. I just finished that, by the way. And here it is again, and I'll show you some inset footage here and there. I don't know. In post-production what I'll do. So this is a survival model as it stands now. It's kind of a prototype. Soda straw, thin barrel, slim 4-end, conventional grip, very reliable, not ultra accurate, but it's basically like a subgun. To me, it's just the way it is, the way it presents. It's so short, so light, so quick into action. This, I'm very enthusiastic about, more so than RDB, just to level with you. To me, it's almost like a different gun. Yes, it's a bullpup, but what it does for me SAWC-wise, in a major caliber, excites me. I don't get that with a KelTec RDB because it's a lot heavier. This 20 on the table, this is a 20-inch barrel. That's a 17-inch barrel KelTec RDB. This is 7 pounds, 7 ounces naked. This will be lighter because it has a little bit shorter barrel. These are more kind of battle-oriented, high-volume fire bullpups. The KelTec Survival, and it's fun talking about this because we talk a lot about philosophy and logic and common sense, so you know how to do your systems. That's what TMP is all about. This is more of a breaking contact weapon. You know, this is, I don't know if I'd want to be in an extended firefight with a KelTec RDB Survival. I don't think in the current version it's really set for that. It doesn't even have metal lining in the front, you know, handguard. You know, you probably have some softening plastic. And that little wispy thin barrel on the current version, dang son, it's too thin. Can't take that volume of fire. It'd be slinging rounds all over the place. There you go, a little bit of philosophy. These are more battle oriented, more volume of fire. And I guess we're talking about philosophy of use right now. You know, some guys do center their total systems on the bullpup. They do, and they dig it. So WROL, you know, all that.
Is that hit or no?
It's not my first choice, but a lot of guys do. A good way you can know this is if I were to take you a tour of the compound here in TMP family land, you would not see any bullpups loaded up ready to go to war. What you would see is actually KelTec SU-16, you'd see multiple ARs, and you'd see several AKs. It doesn't mean I hate them. I don't. I like them. Just telling you, philosophy of use. A competition gun. Chad, our buddy at KelTec, who was made famous here in TMP. We love Chad. Runs RDBs in competition all the time. He's good with them, and he reports great success. That feedback has gone to their department, their R&D, and I can't tell you exactly what. There's probably information out there, but generationally have improved any minor flaws. I don't think they've done anything major to the RDB. because they got it pretty darn good right out the gate. And now you see the current version, which I believe is recommended. Competition gun, recreational gun, sure. One hand firing gun, something you want to be super compact, and yet in like this example, you have a 20-inch barrel. I mean, if I had an AR-15 with a 20-inch barrel, I couldn't even fit it in frame. It would just, I'd have to just kind of pan and move it back and forth like I often do. This is a 17-inch barrel, it totally fits. So full size stuff you get, velocity, less blast in a bullpup. It has advantages. My beef has always been ergonomically, reloading, coming back here. In some versions, the ejection pattern. Not this, because this is a bottom ejector. SAWC Design Ergos, I'm leaving philosophy of use. And we're going to kind of go fast because a lot of this I covered in the survival video, which I've annotated. You should watch that. And it mimics it. It's still a long stroke piston in the RDB. Still has a G3 style of charging handle, non-reciprocating. There is a hold back notch right here. Last shot hold open. This has a thicker barrel, 1-in-7 twist, I believe. This is an A2 flash hider, and this is something aftermarket on this loaner. I'm not sure what. It looks like a Checkmate on there, and that's a nice muzzle compensator. I don't know exactly what it is. I have a Checkmate, and it looks kind of like that, and I like the Checkmates a lot. The barrel is much thicker than the Survival, as you can see, and it's about the same thickness as a Tavor. And here comes a cold hammer forged Tavor, still in inventory in TMP. This is a 1-in-7 twist. And you can see this running, I think, a Griffin M4 SD2 on it. But if you see the thickness, they're the same. This is CHF. I don't think that's a CHF barrel on the RDB. I don't think it's chrome lined either, if that matters to you. Like I said, I like melanite or something like melanite as a coating instead of chrome. I think it's more consistent, gives the corrosion resistance, be that what it may. Okay, that's the barrel. I'm going to show you accuracy, and that really says a lot more about the barrel than what we're discussing here. Accuracy is the report card for the barrel. We'll get to that here in a second. Look at the forend on the RDB. I like the RDB. I don't know if I totally love the RDB, but I definitely like it. I do think the RDB reminds me of its big 308 bullpup design brother, the RFB. And I did say it does have a bulky forend. It does. I did own RFB once upon a time. It's been sold. Gone. Not a cast member anymore. I actually like the forend better on the KelTec Survival. Just like an SU-16. It's trim, neat, actually taper some. I said that in the review. You will be able to add Picatinny rails to it eventually. Just like this one has had pick rails added to it. Although it's an integrated bottom pick rail. That's a Magpul AFG on this one. Just for fun. It's okay. And I like the gator grip on it, but it just seems a little bit bulbous. I know, that's what she said. And here's a look at the Devore. This has an aftermarket eBay run a pick rail, so we can run a vertical grip on it. That's just a mini Tapco grip, which I love. The Tavor grip seems a little bit more narrow. I did review the X95. You can look that review up for my thoughts on the IWI X95. Yeah, slightly disappointed with that one, to be honest with you. Picatinny rail on top of the RDB. It's good. It's anchored by a couple screws here. One screw here. Another one going into the steel band on the upper receiver. We found out, KelTec told me this, like, hey, that one should not be completely tightened up. You almost tighten it, you lock tight, and then you back it out a little bit, is what I was told. No, I didn't look at the manual. I'm like, what? I didn't get that. I was just like, just tighten everything down. There was a time today when I was shooting, I think it was this one, the RDB, the 17 RDB, and I'll see if it can replicate right here. And my groups widened out a little bit. I was disappointed with them. I was like, well, let me just see the rail and see if it can move. And I thought there was just a little bit of flex in it. Now, this is a LaRue mount, and so there's some variables here. Is it the LaRue mount? All these screws are tightened as far as I can remember. I think I tightened them. So it just seems like there's a little bit of movement in there, which I don't like. Okay, a Picatinny rail should be completely locked down, so that would be a recommended improvement in future versions, is that, you know, just lock everything down. Whatever you have to do to change the design, do it. You know, more screws here, aluminum block here, lock it down, and just make it easier that way. Okay, I'm not the expert on RGB design, maybe it can't be done, but what you have is a run from here attached, nothing, no attachments here, and then it attaches back here. So it's not an integrated upper receiver design like an AR-15, which is all metal, no attachment points at all. For what it's worth, not much. Trigger guard, comfortable. Enough room for gloves. I forgot to show you guys the trigger guard, at least specifically mention it in the RDB Survival. It's even better. A lot of room. You're kind of stuck with it since it's a molded frame gun, right? Crossbolt safety on the Survival version, which I don't mind at all. I like it. And this has a 45-degree rotational safety. Very positive on the RDBs. Most guys love it. I like a 90-degree throw usually, but I can adapt to a 45, no problems. Trigger is excellent. It's going to pull around 5 pounds in the RDB. That is to say, it's excellent. Really crisp let off. One of the best, actually the best out-of-box bullpup trigger I've ever tried. Now, some dudes are saying the resurrecting M17S by K&M, K&R, or whatever they're called, it pulls really nice, like sub 5 pounds. I'm looking at it, I'm not super happy with that gun. I mean, it just seems like an old resurrecting design. It has I'm talking about the M17S, the old Bushmaster coming back to life. It's just all metal. I'd rather have plastic, polymer more specifically. I just like it better. Warm to the touch, it's more advanced. Yeah, maybe it's good. Maybe I'll test one day, but from what I'm seeing, I'm just like, yeah, okay. It was cool in 1985. Granted, it's come out, it's got better barrel, better trigger on it, same gun, you know, whatever. Cool. This has an exposed trigger spring on it in the RDB. Some people complain about it. I saw no issues with it at all. I wouldn't worry about it at all. It's fine. How about the ambi nature of this gun? It's pretty excellent. You see, lefties, you'll have one, you know, your safety on that side. There's your bolt release. It's right here. And here's your somewhat controversial magazine release on the standard RDB. This is the way it works. If you've never fired it, you just push it and drop the mag. The reason I feel it's controversial is its location. So you can come back here and you know, bring your gun back or your hand back and you bump it. And yes, I have done that. And, you know, am I some goofball? Yeah, I'm a goofball at times. I readily admit it. But you know, I think we all are. When we design a gun, we want to make it as idiot-proof as possible, right? I said that in the survival video. Yeah, make it idiot-proof. And that's to say that this is a bad design. It's fully ambidextrous, obviously, but you're going to have to train with it a little bit. Maybe just handle the gun, know it's there, talk to competitors. They don't have a problem with it. But they're shooting the gun a lot, and they kind of get used to it, and they know what to expect, right? Field strip, I talked about in survival. Here's a quick picture of the survival broken down into its sub-assemblies. Really nice takedown on the RDB series, all of them. Push pin, simplicity, easy to put back together. I didn't really find any gotchas in taking the gun down. It's a lot easier, like I said, than the SU16 series, which I think is a pain in the butt, especially when you put a scope on, because that scope has to come off to take the gun down all the way. By the way, I don't take my SU16s down all the way. It's very infrequent. You know, just lubing up here and there. Magazines tried, firepower-wise, they all worked, just like survival. GI, Lancer, Magpul.
You gotta go standing, Chad.
There's another one I tried, I forget the brand of it, but they all worked. I didn't try a drum magazine, in case you're wondering. It is a bottom ejecting design, so that actually is a big benefit versus, well, the Tavor.
4 or 5.
Which you can change the ejection side on, but some people find the Tavor ejects right in their face, you know. I never have found that to be a problem. I didn't think it was a problem. I don't even think I mentioned it in the review because it just wasn't an issue to me. But better still is this one. The RDB series just deposits the casings in a neat little pile. How cool is that? Yeah, it's very cool. Like I said, I mean, it's easy at the range. You're not throwing brass on people. It's easy out in the desert. It's easy to go and find your brass and collect them to pick up this landscape to keep it clean, which we always do, by the way. Sling integration. Really nice one here, although I didn't really test it as far as durability. You might rub through that polymer eventually. What I probably do is put a split ring here and then connect to the split ring. So don't connect directly to the polymer. You have some mash hook tie-ins right here. Really no single point cups if that's important to you. So you have a bunch of attachment points throughout there. I don't run slings when I'm testing the guns very often here in TMP just because it represents more time in setting up the guns. And they come and go so quickly. It's just a time thing. Once upon a time I used to do it, but not anymore, man. Okay, going aft. We talked about the trigger. It is excellent. And the length of pull, I think, is about ideal. On the RDB, you do have a polymer cover on the upper receiver here, depending on where your face goes. It is not adjustable. I'm talking about the length of pull a la survival rifle. Remember this one, at least in this version, it's locked up now because of assembly. I don't know what to tell you on that. But it'll slide out back and forth about 1.5 inches, which is cool. I was shooting it in both positions, and it worked fine. Polymer butt pad on this, actually it's a rubber butt pad, and it kept coming off on me. So I'd either tape it up or look into an aftermarket thing on it. I generally don't like rubber because it grabs clothing. This one does too. What I might do is just peel it and run athletic tape on it. Athletic tape is a great way to get a little bit more traction on a plastic surface without making it too grippy. Okay, it does have dual extractors. You might be able to detect those from the photos I took. I'll probably roll some photos in here somewhere. Let's talk about track record. It was much better in this latest round of testing in 2016 than it was in 2012 when we ran it. In 2012, granted those were early production RFBs that Chad brought out, but we did have a few stoppages. He said, and I think we determined they were magazine related.
I don't know.
Okay, and as I always do, I made fun of them out in the field. It's pretty funny. Anytime they bring it out, I show it and I make fun of it because it's funny. It's the curse of the TMP desert. If it can go wrong, it will. Speaking of which, something went wrong with this gun. So we're shooting at long range.
Tactical.
Chad's on the bullpup. We're hitting, I think, 350-yard target or somewhere around there. 400, I forget. And then he was hitting and suddenly he's missing. And it turns out that this Picatinny rail came a little bit loose. And you'll see him holding it down. And it was that back screw that I had mentioned to you that had come loose. And that was enough to just put a little bit of movement in there. So we'll go back to my recommendation for improving. Really lock that rail down. If you have to Loctite it. That's something the customer shouldn't have to do. Get it locked down so it is really on there. Okay, as far as functionality, it was very reliable. It functioned with steel, both Wolf, Hornady, 75 grain match steel. It loved it. I'll show you some accuracy here in a second. And there was 1 or 2 stoppages along the way. I forget what they were. Is something. That's a disadvantage to this design. The bottom injection is nice, but when things lock up, like I said in the RDB survival video, dude, you got to get under here, and it might be a very intricate maneuver to get all the way up in the receiver and get that casing out, because it can be jammed. I recommend anyone who runs a bullpup, especially if you're running steel, is just have a collapsible cleaning rod with you, because that's the easiest way to get out. Just tap it through. Well, you know, if you're in the heat of battle, literally, like as a police officer and that happens, I would go to alternate gun, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be dicking around with no clean rod. And that's a disadvantage. I'm just leveling with you. As opposed to an AR, an AK, you can get right there in the work area, figure out what's going on, rip it, maybe pile drive it, and get the gun back into action. I think it's going to be more complicated with most bullpup designs. Not all, but most of them. It is competition proven, though, on the track record. So we're talking the RGBs at this point, after years in service, have seen thousands and thousands of rounds, not just with competitors, but also with a lot of civilian shooters. And they have, I think, developed a very good reputation for reliability. How about accuracy? Let me reach over to the paper. I did shoot it a lot for accuracy. Overall, I will say it was fair to good, to be honest with you. I'm going to go super fast. This was last month. Not a great group. Winchester white box. It's okay. You know, PMC, 2 MOA. Actually, yeah, it's okay. That's about what I expect out of a KelTec bullpup these days. This is a 20-inch too. This one's good. This is tacticalammunition.com, 77 grain. Always an accurate load. PMC, I think that was just 2 rounds shot there. M193, good. PMC, that shot really well. M193, not so much. It is more accurate than the survival one, if you're wondering. TAC A, 77 grain. Ooh, look at that. That's a great group. That's TAC A as well. Really good groups right here. And this is a 20-inch last month. Freedom Munitions, remanufactured, 77 grain. I gave that a squiggly mark. I probably shouldn't have. That's actually a pretty good group. This one's not. The reason I say that is because this is 77 grain match ammunition. And when you shoot an expensive load like that, you should get better results. As a control, I did have one of our SPRs with us that day, one of my own builds with an Odin Works barrel. I shot the same ammo, Freedom Munitions, and this is what it shot. I mean, you're talking third MOA, half MOA, freaking A. Same shooter, same conditions, same range. That's a good control, because that shows you that with a bullpup with these non-free floated designs, long stroke piston, a lot of rotational mass, I should say moving mass, this is what you're going to get. Don't expect sub MOA. You ain't going to get it. Unless you're lucky, says me. This was today. So here's TAC A. Not impressive. M193, I don't know what the hell happened there. I think that was when I was saying the mount was wiggling. I looked at it. Hornady match steel. It's okay. 2 MOA. So, I would say it's going to be about a 2 to 3 MOA shooter from what I'm seeing. And that's being careful with it, careful shooting. Of course, it's just a small data point. I did show you some loads there that were approaching a 1.5 MOA. I definitely did not see 1 MOA out of it consistently. Now, I would say expect it to be a 2 MOA shooter, which will vary from the interweb, because I clicked around and guys saying, oh yeah, I shoot half MOA with my RDB. I just didn't see that, you know, at all. And I gave it multiple outings and extra times, and I double checked the back screws, I double checked the mounts, gave it an extra outing. I'm going to say 2 MOA is realistic, 3 MOA is even more realistic. So I'll say accuracy is fair to good. There you go. Even with a 20-inch, you know, 17-inch, I shot that one today, and the last targets I showed you was out of the 17. No BOIS is included. If you do mount them, we're talking about accuracy. You're going to have a super short, you know, sight radius. That's a downside on the RDBs. Actually, most bullpups. Just can't get everything, dude. Field strip, I already talked about. Accessories. Running on top of this one is actually a pretty excellent scope. I actually enjoyed shooting out of it a lot. It's a Vortex 2.5-10 to 32. If I find a link for you, I'll put it in the description. That's running in a worn mount. The worn mount is good. It looks a little bit heavy to me. I didn't really weigh it. I think the mount and everything, I did weigh, yeah, 28 ounces. The mount and the scope. So that's both of them together. Accessories. Well, I didn't really click around. I probably should have, but there's probably some things you can add. I don't know what I do. Probably their brass catching bag. Back here I should be pointing, that KelTec has, and it will catch all the empties, and it's a pretty trick, I hear. Do keep the chamber flag, because when you pop the magazine out at the range, you put that in, then your range officer can tell, even though you do have your charging handle locked back into the notch, he can tell that you're unloaded, FYI. I wouldn't do anything to the trigger, by the way. Nothing. It's perfect. You might experiment with some muzzle devices, carry options. This one is a little bit too big to fit into that diversion bag, in case you're wondering. Even the 17. That's tight. That might be able to fit, that 17. The 20-inch, definitely not. I got this freaking scope on here, though, and this was just for testing. It's not, you know, anything else but test. But I think this is going to be too big. Let's try it, though, just for fun. Yeah, it's just a little bit too... You might be able to jam it in there. Yeah, it's tight. You might be able to force it, take the rubber pad off of it, take the scope off. That's a pretty short muzzle device on this RDB 17, by the way. In case you're wondering, hey, put a shorter muzzle device on it. Value options. We're wrapping it up. We're only at 24 minutes. Awesome. Not feature length. I love that. Well, I've mentioned them before, and I've reviewed it. The Steyr AUG. I'm lukewarm on. I used to love it in the 80s, but after shooting it again, seeing how inaccurate it was, it's quirk. I don't know. Not really digging it. Tavor X, or the IWI X95. I do like those better. I still love the Tavor. I think it's such a great gun. Great bullpup. It's still to this day one of my favorite, just because of its track record, both here in TMP, track record in actual combat with IDF. It's just a very capable weapon system. It is heavier than this gun, and that's a big downside. Every gun has quirks, and you just got to determine, hey, is this important to me? Is it not? I love this coloration of the Tavor. Those also are still selling well. I think the Tavors keep their values. We could turn around and sell this one pretty close to what we paid for it, I bet. I haven't tried, but it's a cast member now. Again, they've got that resurrected M17S. I'm hearing reports that's shooting about like this. It's not going to be super accurate. I don't think most bullpups are. There's going to be about 2 MOA, and American Rifleman did a test on it, and they said they had a jam out of there. And then the FN FS2000 quirky gun. There's things I love about that gun, things I don't love about it. Desert Tech MDR, I think it has like $3,000 MSRP. I totally not excited about that gun. You know, not when you have an RDB for a lot less. I say the RDB, therefore, is recommended. You know, I'm not coming to the table and go, oh my gosh, the regular RDB is the most amazing bullpup in the world. It's definitely lighter than a Tavor. It's proving to be very reliable. And accuracy is probably the damper on me, and the ergonomics of the front end, just my mileage, that kind of, I don't know, dampen my enthusiasm a little bit. It's still a cool gun if you can find them. Which, again, I'll say it here. It's so funny, you know, there's supposedly so much online hate on KelTec. Oh, they suck, they build garbage, I'd never buy one, and yet all the products are pretty much sold wherever you go. Yeah, so good luck finding one if you can get it. They do come in different colorations, I think. Green and tan. It's a cool bullpup. Nothing fancy.